you've been instrumental in some of the most fundamental changes that have happened in Ibiza. I mean,
this is insane. We would have people driving in cars, and 2 cars, we would force tour operator coaches off the road on the San Antonio highway, and we would literally raid them and tell everyone not to buy off their reps, and we would send teams on to the buses and put flyers in people's hands.
Yeah.
It was insanity, but I think there's too many concerts and not enough parties.
Yeah.
And I remember having that conversation. I was sat on the balcony, he says, I'm going to put the production values of a live band around a DJ, and Calvin's going to start DJing. I went, genius. That's a brilliant, great idea. It obviously worked.
Hi, welcome to another episode of Loud and Unfiltered in Ibiza. We're here with Andy McKay and Grego, my co-presenter. How you doing, Andy?
welcome, Andy.
All right, welcome on.
I'm very good. I'd like IMS to change dates because it's perfect for all you music industry types, but for me it's just like pretty much the busiest week of the year.
Couldn't be a worse week.
And
Preparations for the
just
summer.
Like, honestly, I think it should all be changed around me.
They did change it, didn't they? They moved it back.
They moved it a month
But
earlier.
then we moved the clubs earlier as well. It's like, maybe it's our fault.
We spoke, just to talk about IMS, we spoke on last year on the panel I usually host about Ibiza, and it was the first time you'd spoken actually there for a while, because I think we were jokingly said you were too controversial the last time we were on, and they didn't invite you back.
Yeah, I was much smarter this time. I think I managed to get Jess from Pasha to be more controversial than me. Why isn't it happening this year? Let's turn the tables.
I think, I do have an answer for that. They wanted to do Queens of Ibiza. So they wanted to do an all-female panel. So Ben did actually speak to me and say, look, because he saw, I think, you speaking last time, and that said we need to be doing this again, the Ibiza update, but just the timings didn't work. So I think interestingly on that one, it's always a case of the panel's always, it's the year of change. It's always the year of change in Ibiza.
Every year.
You've been instrumental in some of the most fundamental changes that have happened in Ibiza.
Sorry about that.
No, in a positive way. Let's go right back to the start. Manumission over 30 years ago. How did you first come to Ibiza? What was your first contact with the island?
Well, potted history, because it's a long time ago now. We launched Manumission. Me and my brother launched Manumission in Manchester in 1994. I only ran it for like 16 weeks. Usual club promoter gets doused in petrol and someone threatens to kill you. So you go to Ibiza for a holiday. So me and Mike went on a package holiday to Ibiza for 2 weeks, just to escape the petrol fumes or whatever it was. And it was, no real intention of doing anything. Ibiza was cheap. First week, just chilled out. Second week, all these big clubs were opening, and kind of didn't want to pay in. So pretended that I wanted to promote an event. We basically pretended it. Didn't realise that we could have just walked into any bar and ordered a drink and they'd have given us a free pass anyway. Thought we were being really clever. So we got free tickets to all the clubs, but we had to have meetings with them about pretending to want to do Manumission.
Oh, wow.
and it went from pretense to reality to why don't we do it? It would be nice to spend the summer in Ibiza to,
It's just incredible that, almost like a joke that got too far could turn into
funny one
the most iconic parties in Ibiza.
The funny thing is, I've still got the letter I sent Francisco from Pasha, begging him to give me a weekly party in Pasha. And I said, Francisco, he offered me a monthly. I said, I can't do it every week. I said, unless you give me a weekly one, I'm going to have to go and do the Coco Loco bar in Koo, privilege, universe. And he didn't give it me. And it was like the year after they made us a very attractive offer to move.
Manumission then, it's just that it's as iconic. It was a match made in heaven at the club. How quickly did it develop into the beast that it became known for? Because obviously, as you said, it was very humble and impromptu. How it began.
Well, it started off as a little sort of mixed gay friendly party in the Coco Loco bar. The sort of what was you got to go back. Sexuality was much more of an issue back then. So the gay scene was really good because it was different. Now it's kind of it's not so much of an issue anymore, is it? But it was just a little niche party in the Coco Loco, and it kind of started doing better than the event in the main room that Tommy Mac was promoting. Tommy Mac and Paul Tommy obviously died last year. So when Tommy and Paul Dennis were promoting the big party, we were putting more numbers in, and we ended up doing a deal to take the whole venue because we just split it and the whole venue became called Manumission. And I guess part of it was because I came up with a flyering commission thing, so I was paying people. I took 60, 70 people on overnight and said, we'll give you 200 pesetas for every person you bring in, and we were getting 1,000 pesetas, so we were taking 800 pesetas.
Oh wow!
So we basically put an army of people in the beaches. Instead of that, pass you tonight, someone was paid for the day, didn't really care. When you sat on the beach and 15 people, like their life depends on it, told you had to go to Manumission, when no one had ever done that on the island before, I guess we went from like 2,000 people to 6,000 people overnight. Wow. And it was just bang. And then nobody could understand how we did it, but it was just, one of those things.
Yeah, would you say that was like a pivotal moment? Like,
no, very much so. And then because it got so busy and the sound system was so terrible, building in energy was so awful that we decided we had to create entertainment and activities, and then we put it up in the air so a lot of it was necessity, and I think that's a lot of the time it's
because obviously the concept each year was another thing which almost is taken for granted in Ibiza now, that every year there's a concept. Jamie Jones changes its paradise, but there's a theme every year. Was that from the start something that you, as you said, you used as an entertainment thing that you had to do?
I mean, to be honest, they started off more simple. It was really my brother, Mike and Claire. They got so passionate about the concepts, which were great, and I'd be going, fucking hell, there is like a Bible behind this concept.
Oh, right,
Most people are not reading it in this deeply, Mike. Why are we spending so much? But it was, the level of detail was insane. But it was great.
As you said, the show element, the good ship Manumission. I remember. There's a full performance. It's.
Oh God, yeah.
That was, that's not really something you see or have seen since in Ibiza in clubs. In that way. So it's and as you said, I think the other part, which I guess perhaps on a more basic level for people, that it became renowned for the sex show as well.
Yeah. It was just a different time, and I remember talking to the Elro guys, and I said, "Are you not time coding? Aren't you putting it to a click, to a track, time code?" And I was going like 20 years ago, we were doing our performance to the music, and it was all timed because the impact when you bring it together is so much bigger. And I was going, "Are we not doing that?" And I guess, I'm sure the Aswayas and so on are doing these choreographed moments, but it was an amazing time. And obviously the sex show just was a thing of its time.
I think as well that probably coincided with an Ibiza when, I guess, commercially, tourism wise, it was really boomed, even perhaps not always in necessarily great ways. Ibiza Uncovered perhaps wasn't the most flattering representation of the island, but in terms of mass tourism, Manumission was right there in the middle of it, and it was, same with me. When I first came here, the first thing that the rep said is, make sure you get your ticket for Manumission. It's going to sell out. It's 10,000 people. That was before we'd even got on the coach, to go. And it got to a stage where other clubs weren't even opening on Mondays because they couldn't compete.
Yeah, in those early days, they all used to close.
Yeah.
They all used to close. In '94, I remember everyone would shut up. And by 4 a.m, Pasha was closed, everyone was closed, and all their staff were at Manumission.
Even bars in the bay, the bars were closed on a Monday.
Yeah. So it was, look, it's a different time now, and now you've got a place where everyone can be busy on the same night sometimes. It was of its moment, it was amazing, loved it. Don't particularly want to go back to it. Yeah. I couldn't cope. But it was it was an amazing time.
Yeah. What kind of was Ibiza like in the 90s for you? And like kind of paint a picture of like how it was.
Well, there were no phones. There were landline phones, but you couldn't have it. You wouldn't get a phone installed for like 6 or 7 months. So unless you lived here permanently, you couldn't have a phone. And the phone bill used to arrive months after you made the phone call. So it really didn't work. I remember, and there were no mobile phones. So we used to go to, I used to go to Satrincha Beach every day because it was the only way you could meet people. And if you missed people, and sometimes it would take me 3 or 4 days just find someone. It was just, the pace was just so different.
What, to try and find a friend or
Find
something
anyone.
like that?
Find someone that you were trying to get to DJ, or I used to get incensed that the printers would close for siesta, and I was going, but I need my posters, and they go, well, we haven't quite finished them. Come back later, 5 o'clock tomorrow. So yeah, no, very different pace. Ibiza changes, and I think it's great, and I don't think Ibiza's, it's not like, it shouldn't be like, I'm very much in favour of Ibiza's great. The thing I will say about the Ibiza today that I have a problem with, but it's the world today, is the lack of tolerance. I think we need, the great thing about this island was tolerant, the live and let live, and this I would like to see come back.
Where do you see that? What type of?
Well, everything. It's the attacks on people. You're allowed to think like this. You're allowed to dress like this. You're not how you meant to behave. Anti-tourism sentiment. There's just so much, and I get some of the reasons behind it. But one of the most beautiful things of this island has always been the live and let live, tolerant society that when during the Franco period, all the hippies, all the draft dog, it's that magic can be enhanced, and I think we could all do more to be a little bit more tolerant of. We don't have to agree with each other. We don't have to, but we just, let people get on with their lives and be, just generally be, because that's kind of got a bit crazy.
I mean, famously, the clubs in Ibiza would kind of, again, on that sentiment, they'd be constantly denouncing each other, but they kind of all needed each other as well. Privilege needed space on the Sunday to be busy so that it could be busy on a Monday, and it's almost feels like now that there isn't even that mutual respect a little bit.
Yeah, but even then, back in the day, we just took a day each.
Yeah.
It wasn't that fiercely competitive. Mondays was Manumission, Tuesdays was Manu Pennies, Wednesdays was Renaissance, Thursdays was Cream, Fridays was Ministry of Sound, Saturdays I think was Bugged Out in Amity. We all just had a day each. It was fine.
That's kind of how it runs.
So it did this in all levels. That there was more of you wouldn't try and kill your competitor by booking something bigger. That's a new thing.
Yeah.
I mean new as in 15
if you look at
years
it now,
new,
there's 7 or 8 nights on a week across the island.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, a day across the island now.
Yeah, but even that's not an Ibiza thing. That's a global, that's an everywhere thing, and it is what it is, and it's fun.
One thing I wanted to ask you about, I mean, you mentioned the mobilisation of an army of flyers there. We've been talking about how promoters are like entrepreneurs. They'll find a way to make things work. And what other tactics were you using in the 90s to get people to go to your event?
Jesus Christ! I mean, it wasn't just that. It was that we only got paid if people paid in with our flyers on the door. We didn't get paid on pre-tickets originally. We didn't get paid on the tour operator ticket sales originally.
Oh, right, okay.
So we actually used to, I mean, this is insane. We would have people driving in cars, and 2 cars, we would force tour operator coaches off the road on the San Antonio highway, and we would literally raid them and tell everyone not to buy off their reps, and we would send teams on to the buses and put flyers in people's hands.
Yeah.
I mean, It was insanity, the sort of things that when I look back at what we did, in those days, it was just...
Musically, I mean, we just before we were on camera, we were talking about unannounced lineups. That was always a big part of Manumission events. You never really knew who was going to be playing.
It was weird. That came in 1999. So Ibiza Uncovered, the sex show, there was a point where, the sex show had 4,000, mainly men, stood in the middle of the club waiting for it to happen, and it was killing the atmosphere. So everything I've ever done has always been about energy, and when the energy was dying, so I, unbeknown to my brother, built a DJ box God. The DJ being a god is partly my fault, because the DJ used to be up in nobody knew where the DJ was. But because I wanted to kill the sex show that was happening on the water fountain in the middle of Coup in Privilege, the only way I could think of doing it was I built a DJ box between one week and the next in the middle of the club with scaffold. So we built this DJ box, and when Mike and Claire came in, they went mad and said, "Well, where the fuck are we going to do the sex show?" And I went, I don't care, anywhere. But because nobody knew where to wait, the energy stayed in the room. So,
Right.
Okay,
so then I was
amazing.
going, shit, but we're making the DJ too important. So at the same time, I went, I'm going to stop advertising DJs. Because I felt like we couldn't compete with the Renaissance tours, the Cream tours, the Ministry tours. We didn't have buying power.
Yeah.
So I went, let's just get out of the game.
Yeah.
And we went and poached. And bloody poor Darren Hughes and the We Love lot, because we nicked pretty much their DJs every bloody week.
Every week.
And we were.
They'd play Sunday
and I remember
and then-
there was a standard ticket. We didn't care who you were. You could be Daft Punk or you could be.
Oh, right,
Dave
yeah,
Grohl,
it was
or-
supposed to play
it was
on a
like
Sunday, yeah.
€1,000 and some drinks tickets, and that was the most we paid anyone.
Wow.
And it was like amazing because we had these enormous DJ lineups. And we just didn't tell people who played, but people obviously found out who played last week. So it was like,
So kind of easy to work it out.
so yeah, I mean that was a great moment, and it's what I touched on earlier. I think that I brought Ibiza Rocks to the island, did the bands. I massively love concerts. I massively love live music culture, but live music culture's crossed over into dance culture, and I absolutely think it's brilliant. And Aswire is a fantastic concert venue, the right concert venue.
Yeah.
But I feel too many dance events are concerts. That does not mean that I don't think that a Calvin Harris or a David Guetta show in Aswire should be a concert. I think they should. But I think there's too many concerts and not enough parties.
Yeah. Do you think that's become because of all the big production, all the big kind of like the LED screens and all the lasers and everything like that? Do you think that's?
I think
kind
we've
of
gone
turned them
too
into shows
one-dimensional.
more than parties.
We've just
And
gone too
phones as well, I
one-dimensional.
guess.
We've gone too one-dimensional, and and I remember having the conversation with Mark Gillespie, Calvin Harris's manager, when I first brought Calvin Harris to the island. Remember, he was a singer in a band. Calvin
a lot of
Harris, it was
people forget that,
acceptable in the
yeah.
80s. And I remember having that conversation. I was sat on the balcony. He says, Andy, I'm gonna put the production values of a live band around a DJ, and Calvin's going to start DJing. I went, genius. That's a brilliant, great idea. It obviously worked, right? And then I rang him up and said, "What?" He said, "No. So I've got to totally distance Calvin from his old past. So my reward to you, Andy, is I can't do anything at all with you. I'm going to do an exclusive deal with Cream." I went, fucking great. But fair enough. And I actually agree with him. It was a good move. But that concert culture is amazing and it's brilliant. And I think why shouldn't you have electronic rock stars? They are rocks, totally. But for a healthy scene, you need parties and you need atmosphere. And if everybody is pointing in the same way, it's a concert.
Yeah.
What you do, and this is a bit like what we do with Mondays at Pikes, is we're trying to create something it's about the sum of its parts and not tell people who the DJs are. And obviously, it's worked really well, but that's what you need. You need the mix. And you know what? We shouldn't worry about it, because what will happen is, look, Universe has come along. Some of the artist fees have tripled. It's like, and I'm not a footballer, but it's a Premier League. I can't play
feels like
that
that,
game,
doesn't it?
right? I don't want to play that game, and well, actually, I quite like to play that game.
Yeah.
I can't play that game, so I don't want to play that game because I can't. And
Does that make you want to get more creative then?
well, that's what my
come up
point
with
is.
Different ideas and
gives
things like that.
me, everybody, other people. I saw Martin Jr.'s talk yesterday at IMS. It's a fantastic opportunity to return to parties that are the sum of their parts, not just about one thing alone, because that is very, very necessary. And I think through it, things evolve. And this is where we go. It's like, Ibiza Rocks. Every brand I have is, they're magical to me. They're brands. It's like Pikes. Everything we do in Pikes is about, does it make Pikes more magical?
Yeah.
There's an ethos behind it. There's something bigger than it. 528, our new one, we see it as the authentic outdoor, yin to the yang. That's it. That's what it is. We want it to stand apart, to be different, to ooze Ibiza, because not everything does, and that's great. you know, it's not about attacking. It's just going, we need to balance things, and that's what that is. Now Ibiza Rocks. Ibiza Rocks is youth. I believe in it. I believe that young people are the lifeblood of this island. I believe if we lose the 20-somethings, the island, creatively, in terms of electronic dance music, in terms of the scene, is dying. It might take 15 years to die, but it's dying.
Yeah, so we've had this conversation with quite a few people this week.
We actually mentioned you
like how,
the other day, because I know what you told me when I saw you the other day. But what is it you're wanting to try and achieve and making sure?
What I'm trying to do is I've realised that, you know, you don't have to compete. So with Ibiza Rocks, we've thrown the towel in. We've gone, we're not going to pay the triple DJ fees. We've sat there and gone, what is our role in this? Our role in this is we're the single biggest brand in youth travel from the UK British market.
Yeah.
You know, we do other things as well, but that's our core thing. People come to you think about coming on holiday to Ibiza, it's Ibiza Rocks.
Yeah.
You know, we're a musical brand. We've got a huge identity. And yes, you know, look, I'd love to go back to doing the Arctic Monkeys and the Prodigy. It was great, you know. Don't get me, I'm not saying, but we're not at that moment. We're at a moment where, you know, there are incredible, amazing shows on this island that are 100 to 200 euros door entrance, that at a level that as a promoter I don't even want to go. I just don't want to play that big.
Yeah.
I also can't, right?
Yeah. Do you think it's scaring a lot of the young kids off? Because I'm kind of hearing people only coming for like 2 days, 1 day. Some people even coming for 1 day and just sleeping on the beach now.
Well, that's what we're seeing is, so what we're sat there is going, we've got to get off the train. We've got to sit there and go, our role is not to be a competitor. Our role is to be a complement. So I see this year as Ibiza Rocks and Calvin Harris, Ibiza Rocks and El Row, Ibiza Rocks and Ocean Beach. I don't care. Yeah. I want us to be the credible, the product's largely the same. You know, I want to put a bit more shading so people can dance in the sunshine. I really think more and more we're about the daytime party in Ibiza Rocks. But, you know, we're dropping the drinks prices by about 30%.
Wow.
I mean, we're going like, you know, it's...
Amazing. That's what it needs, yeah.
Drinks have to be less than the average price of a drink in a pub in the UK. So £5 beers. You know, this is what we're talking about, because what we want to do is be the thing that people go to 2, 3, 4 times in their week, and you can go and have a few drinks at Rocks, have a great time, and then go on and do your main event. Yeah. Now, I hope we can make the pre-event better than the main event, and I hope they can turn up and go, yeah, well, we actually had more fun in Rocks.
Yeah, well, and then
great. So we are being, but the change in ethos, it's about we need, and I think it's not against anyone. It's like, imagine a Pasha without 20-somethings on the dance floor.
Yeah.
It's just not going to work.
You mentioned that, again, and we've talked at length about this, that at the minute it's not a problem, but as you say, if those 20-somethings aren't coming in 10 or 15 years, the dance floor's empty, they're going to put more VIP tables there, then it's Vegas, or Ibiza just ends up as a Saint-Tropez kind of vibe where it's just everyone's rich.
I guess with the youngsters, if you haven't got them on the dance floor, then who have the VIPs got to look at and look cool as well?
What about
the VIPs are there for the dance floor, aren't they?
There's a seedy side to VIP, and there's the boats, the yachts. There's an ecosystem. You can't remove the plankton from the sea, and I'm not trying to be derogatory. I'm just saying there is an ecosystem.
Yeah.
And if you take the 20-somethings out of the market, Ibiza can and will die, as we know it. And what angers me is that we need the scene to respond. And I'm not saying you can't. Look, it's a global problem. Talent doesn't make money out of records anymore. Talent can charge. I'm not here to criticise. I'm just saying if it's going to be 200 euros or 150 euros to get into a club, what are you doing to protect youth?
Yeah.
You know, and I've been on this journey for so long. I mean, I did Ibiza Rocks. Remember I did Reclaim the Dance Floor in Eden?
Yeah, I remember
Pay
that.
your age in euros on the door. I mean, if that's
Was
not
that-
controversial.
Wow, was that it? That's what the answer was. Oh wow.
You know, it was like I wanted Dad to get off the dance floor in it, and I remember that's probably part of the reason why I wasn't invited back to the IMS for so long, because there was a lot of people my age ruling the dance music, but I passionately believe nightclubs are fundamentally a space for 20-somethings. Now that doesn't mean that look. Pikes is 27 plus. We don't let you in if you're, you know. Of course, there's markets, but if we don't appeal to youth, all of us, you know.
Yeah.
So again, it's repositioning. I want to be Jan's friend, Aswaya's friend, Universe's friend, Pasha's friend, because I want people to see us as the single biggest resource of young people that
They need
Yeah,
your customers.
you're bringing them in, and then
I can't and don't want to compete with them. So it's literally a realization of, you know, taking you know, yeah, we're doing the odd event this year, but we're stepping off the table. Now, of course, we've got another venue in the group called 528, and I'm just facing the reality that I can talk to 20 artists about Ibiza Rocks or 528. And 21 of them, they'll say 528. Yeah. You know, that's just the reality. So why push water uphill? Why not just go with it and say, you know, Ibiza Rocks is going to, you know, we can create incredible energy. And it is about energy. Yeah. And that doesn't mean if this summer something happens that provides opportunity to get back into talent in a very strong, sensible way. Yeah, I'll be there in seconds.
Yeah, I heard last year, was it Cocoon? Was one of the most talked about parties at 528 last year.
Yeah, I mean,
so many people. I wasn't over here for it, but so many people in the UK were talking about it. It was just a huge buzz about it.
Just to explain then, so 528 was the old Manumission gala night.
Yeah.
And it's been completely transformed. The inside space as well. It's just incredible.
We're opening the club this year. The little club downstairs. We're opening that, and we're doing some amazing events. And you know, again, it's the long game, isn't it? We don't do too many events there. We're doing quite a lot more this year, but most of them are small events. I'm trying to make 528 be a capacity of. I'm more interested in making it great for 400 people than I am in making it great for 8,000 people. We're not doing that many big events this year. I mean, when I mean big Radio 1 open air events, we're doing some on brunch. The vast majority of what we're doing is, you know, it's focused around the garden. It's focused around the small new club we're opened. It's all about scalability. You know, there's curtains that move. The venue will grow as the capacity increases, and it will shrink as the night comes to an end. So it's about maximising energy.
You can move parts of the
absolutely. And the terraces outdoor will shrink and grow too. So genuinely, we can be sold out with 400 people.
How do you manage that during the night, logistically?
Well, the good thing is I don't know yet because we haven't tried.
Brilliant. I love that. Creative idea. Let's see if it works.
We're throwing things at the wall, aren't we? But they're curtains.
Brilliant.
And it'll destroy, you know.
That's great. I like that. I see you're supporting a lot of the like new artists, like Josh Baker's coming there, Rossi's doing stuff in there. Like a lot of artists who are playing at other clubs, but they're introducing their brands there as well. Which
we need to. But we need to have a venue that you can say, I can get 200 people in front of my in my dance floor. We want them to get those 200 people and then go pull the curtain back. Now you got 400. Pull another one back. Now you got 600. That's what I want to be.
It's like a button on the thing.
Yeah. And then at the end of the night, we don't want to closing. Yeah, because the atmosphere's going down. No, we'll just close a curtain and shrink it back in again. So that's kind of the vision we've got.
It's really interesting.
But it's also the outdoor spaces. You know, it's. You know, I remember last year. Because we did a year with Pasha, and we did some great shows with Pasha a couple of years ago. And I went to the Pasha team and I went, look, let's just do the garden. Let's not go into the big main arena yet. Let's just start small. And we all agreed. And then I got told Solomon will only play the main arena. And yeah, it was great. It was great. But then I remember last year we did a party with Solomon in the garden, and Solomon and his manager said to me, well, this is so good. He says, why didn't we play here last year? And I said, because you insisted you had to play the main stage. He says, no, we didn't. We prefer it here. And I'm going, wow. But it's not that I don't like big things. I love big things, but I don't think it's a moment for big things. It's a moment for small things. And, you know, we've got a Pikes that is never going to charge on the door, you know. We're now doing charity donation, compulsory charity donations on the door, €5. We're never going to, you know, it's going direct to the local charities, so we don't even touch it. We have a different charity.
So somewhere on the island and stuff like that.
With their own, it's, you know, card only, their own. So we're literally, you know, raising, you know, a lot of money for local charities because it, you know, we're fortunate enough that more people want to come than we can fit in, and it helps, you know. Make it
let's just go into Pikes there. I mean, again, as part of the portfolio.
Sorry.
No,
all over the place. You can make it.
That's all right. I'm like sat in silence. Just listening to you.
Just to give a bit of.
I've just taken my first breath.
Yeah. Just to give a bit of an insight to people who might not know what Pikes is. How would you explain it to someone who's not aware of what Pikes is?
I mean, Pikes is like it's arguably the most rock and roll hotel in the world. And by that, I mean, you can hold a candle up to Chateau Marmont or, you know, the Chelsea Hotel or whatever they are. It's a contender. We can argue whether it is or not the most rock and roll hotel, but it's steeped in history.
Yeah,
it's got magic in its walls. It's got so much about it. And there's an energy about Pikes. And, you know, I mean, obviously I've had Pikes now for, God, I don't know, probably 15 years, but I've been massively re-involved in a hands-on capacity, you know, hugely for the last sort of 3 years. And there's a filter, and we just sat there and we went, right, the filter is, does it make Pikes more magical? And when you started going, I remember the last year I was going, particularly last year, because last year was, you know, a huge year of evolution. And I walked into Plaza Mayor and I said, do people eating in here make it more magical? I thought, no, it's better to be another room of music. You know, and then we've had the people eating, you know, on the room 39, the restaurant. I went, well, wouldn't that be nicer as a bar? Yeah, well, let's move the restaurant to the back. And we literally changed. I mean, not in an aggressive way, but I just kept shaping the...
Yeah,
like a canvas.
You just sat there going, and we've now got, when you see it this year, yeah, there were some problems. You know, it was, we had issues with people turning up, but we've now got a feedback.
What do you mean?
Well, because we just had so many people turning up.
Right, okay.
We got into September last year, and September was, it's not enjoyable having 600-700 people turn on a Saturday night that we can't fit in. And, you know, and we had, you know, we had to adapt, and we got some criticism, but you know what? It was a great problem. But what we're now doing is we've created a feedback loop. I was talking about them in IMS yesterday about, you know, so the guest list now, you can only register 2 people, not more people. You have to, your lead name, you have to have ID. We're trying to minimise, because what killed us last year was people started mainly giving away. I'm not saying selling, but they're saying, I'm not going to Pikes tonight. Do you want our QR code?
Oh, wow.
And in September, it just leapt, and our conversion rate jumped by about 30% overnight. And we were planning half the people not to turn up. But they didn't. They came. So what we're much more evolved, and now, in fact, it'll be tested for the first time tonight. Once we reach capacity, we will be emailing the people that are coming, saying we're already full.
Oh, right, okay.
You know,
you can,
and then we'll be saying it's 1 in, 1 out. There's a 20-minute queue. We will try and get people educated. We'll pre-warn them, because what we don't want is people to turn up and wait for an hour to get in. We'd rather they just go somewhere else. Maybe 5 to 8. I don't know. We'll work it out.
You talk about.
I mean, it's not far.
Yeah, you were talking about the magic there, and I think you know, that's such a perfect word for Pikes. It couldn't be more of an alternative to the big discotheques. You know, it's just a small, intricate maze of different levels, and just I think as for me, being, you know, having been someone who went to Manumission, it's almost like a mini Manumission, you know. Like with one of my first experiences in Ibiza was watching Fatboy Slim playing the toilets in Manumission.
Handing out the toilet paper.
And I went downstairs, you know, went to go to the toilet, and Fatboy Slim's just there, and there's about 5 other people in the room squashed in. And
Norman used to love it because he would see their faces going, that looks a bit like...
It is, yeah, completely.
And it was just the look on people's faces. It was amazing. And actually, me and my girlfriend, we were in Pikes on Saturday night. And, you know, obviously Roberto, crazy piano man, has been doing Pikes for, God, I don't know, 8 years, 10 years, long time. But we stood on the steps up to the rooms, and we were just watching him do his Rockstar set, and it's so amazing. It's just so much fun. And again, we were sat there, and what I was loving watching was the look on people's faces as they walked into the sort of the lobby of, you know, the main house of Pikes Hotel, you know, just before Freddy's, and the looks on their faces, they're looking around and they're seeing someone singing Wonderwall or whatever it is in a spacesuit, you know, and it's like, and it's just, it's not for everyone, but you know, the ones that loved it.
I bet that gives you a buzz seeing that. It's like we've set that up perfect. I mean, I even saw a photo of someone on a horse yesterday outside Pikes. I think it was.
Yeah, no, I saw that.
I was like, that only happens outside Pikes.
Yeah.
When it comes to
yesterday apparently.
When it comes to curating the events at Pikes, then how do you? What's the process there? Because again, it's completely out of the normal game of booking big clubs and big events in Ibiza. How do you approach that?
Well, again, it's weird because, which is quite nice. It's becoming increasingly difficult to put really huge talent in Pikes, because if you advertise it, it just changes the makeup and the magic of who a Pikes customer is. So because we are so much a destination now, I feel that increasingly, you know, even our bathtub club, you know, it's packed sometimes. We have to do overflow edition in bathtub club and open the whole venue because you know, playing the little bath is just not enough. So you've got hundreds of people. So I quite like that. But I also like us putting big artists on. So, you know...
So you don't announce them, basically.
But the not announcing them thing is increasingly important because, you know, if you're going to put Danny Tenaglia and Paul Oakenfold on the same lineup with, you know, a bunch of other people, you know, you just don't want to announce it because,
I love
it changes the character of what the event is. You know, a Saturday night in Pikes will be sold out every week for the whole season, you know. So what's, you know, if you're going to put someone, you know, look, we put, you know, it's almost double-edged sword, isn't it? You put Blessed Madonna and Kylie Minogue on. You don't tell people Kylie's there, but it's...
I saw loads of videos like that.
It's we kind of don't want to do it too much. Do you know what I mean? Not as great as it was, you know. And then Rita Ora pops up, and we kind of go, well, actually, maybe we don't want to do this too much.
Yeah.
Maybe we'd be better to have people.
So do you?
So when know.
So as soon as people know, then people.
So when it comes to planning that, like, talk us through how do you do that? Is it kind of like a bit of a free like, flowing process of like who's available, who's on the island?
Well, we're very fortunate because Stuart Harris is, I mean, he's been with my business for 30 years. You know, I met him on an airplane 30 years ago, and my brother had forgotten to pick me up, and I had no money, and he lent me what was it, 5,000 per se, it's like 20 quid to get a taxi into San Antonio. This was in 1995.
So you were already doing Manumission by that point?
So I was doing Manumission. He didn't know who I was. He knew I worked for Manumission. He didn't know who I was. He lent me some money. I said, come back to Bar M, Coca Loco Bar the next day, and I'll give you money back. Now what happened with Stuart is he slept on someone's floor, got his bike stolen, everything he owned stolen. The next morning he turned up and he didn't have anything. So we gave him his money back, and we gave him a job painting stalls. It was the worst bar stool painter I've ever seen in my life. But since then, he's worked in the company for 30 years.
Wow.
But he's been so involved with artists. He's like almost the fifth Arctic monkey. He's got so much connect. He's such a lovely guy. He just knows everybody in the scene. So now we just he's booking the talent and booking the programs, and it really is a case of, you know, do great music, you know, don't get, you know, people, there's a love. It's like, you know, David Morales loves Pikes, and we love David. You know, Harvey loves what he's doing.
Yeah,
and it's you know, you want that energy, you want that magic, and to the extent that we've actually gone, well, Pikes Presents is, it as we said, it sometimes changes the character of Pikes. So Pikes Presents is happening at 5 to 8. We announce it this evening. Okay. So we've got Basement Jacks and Groove Armada and various shows, you know, happening, Sasha and Digweed and things like that, at Pikes Presents in 5 to 8 in the garden, you know, because we're trying to find a way to, you know, keep the magic. Because if we were going to do a big show like that at Pikes, I'm not saying we'll never announce it, but it's quite nice not to.
Let's go back to one project we haven't really talked about yet, which is Ibiza Rocks. I mean, just I can't believe that you actually pulled it off, really. Like, because at the time, to bring rock music to Ibiza, it was, I mean, it's wacky now, but then even more so. Where did this idea come from, and how did you visualize it?
Well, I mean, I was booking bands at Manumission. I got really into, in my teenage youth years, I was listening to bands. I was loving, you know, guitar bands. So it was quite an easy thing to fall back into that. We then started booking, you know, things like, you know, The Rapture and LCD Sound System and Venus Hum, and you know, we took on Harmar Superstar as a resident performer. It was great. So we were doing stuff in the live music arena, and it was great. It was great. But there was a point where I wanted to go cross over into guitar band, and I think people forget that, you know, we've got much more eclectic ears now because of, you know, iPods. You know, the world, everyone can listen to everything now. But back then it was quite a narrow field, and, you know, in 2005, analog angular music hurt our customers' ears. It was physically painful for them. They just weren't used to it. I mean, this is like, you know, Seven Nation Army was bad enough. They couldn't do, you know. So when we launched Ibiza Rocks, it was for dance kids that want to rock and rock kids that wanted to dance. But the problem was, dance kids didn't want to rock, and so it became, we had to become far more radical than we ever thought. So what happened was, we realised that if we played anything more dancey than Franz Ferdinand, the event didn't work. And I remember there was Zane Lowe and Paul Epworth, and on the opening night with Fisher Spooner and Massimo Park. We'd actually done a pre-run with Baby Shambles, Pete Doherty.
This was at the bar.
This was at Manumission, the back room. The back room of privilege. We'd done a test at Manumission with Baby Shambles a few weeks before, and it was electric with Pete Doherty and everything. And it was just a realisation that this is a much smaller scene than we appreciated, but much more radical. We had to play, indie music different, and it was magical. But out of it grew so much, but it wasn't. The concept of Ibiza and rock didn't mix. It turned off. Probably 70 to 80% of all customers were just not coming to our event because they hated the idea of it. And I remember it was really difficult. I mean, we had nights when we were stapling drinks tickets to free invitations, and still only getting 50 people in the room.
Wow.
It was not, but we played the media, and Kaiser Chiefs. I remember Kaiser Chiefs sold out, and I was under a lot of pressure to put Kaisers into the main room. I just went, no, go out and put sold out on every poster on the aisle. And the moment we had a show that, that event you can't stand, and you wouldn't go if we paid you to go, because we proved it.
You're intrigued.
Now you can't come. Because it's full.
That's it.
But back then, there had never been sold out on a poster in Ibiza, ever.
Right, okay.
And so it slowly started to change. And then the daytime playlist at Radio 1 just flipped that into the winter of 2005. The music we were playing became the mainstream music of the UK.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, we just rode a wave.
Yeah.
And then obviously
Is that why you moved it then to the hotel, because the capacity
No, I mean,
was getting bigger and?
I moved it to the Ibiza Rocks bar because I didn't think Baby Shark Pete Doherty was going to turn up for the second show, and he did. And it was the day after Cocaine Kate, so it was a madness. Then it was so good, I realised that it had to stay outdoors. So then I fought this battle of running illegal shows in Bar M outdoors.
It was still Bar M then.
Yeah.
It was still Bar M, and they were magical shows, Kasabian, Arctic. But the problem was we eventually got
I remember
shut
those
down,
shows.
and we got reopened. You know, the deputy mayor managed to get us a special permission to do Arctic Monkeys and Kaiser Chiefs once we'd already been closed down, because it was too important for the town. And that Arctic Monkeys show was monumental. There was like 4,000 or 5,000 people on the beach who couldn't get in.
Yeah,
but,
I remember that.
But we moved because we went on the run. We became rave promoters because, you know, I used to try and get the show finished before the police arrived. That's how we did the early shows in 5 to 8 Manumission Park. So this was when Zoo Project started. We were there too, with the Ibiza Rocks shows there. I did a great Hadouken We Are Scientists show in Pikes on the tennis court. So Ibiza Rocks Hotel was Club Parisio. I did the Manumission Millennium there. And we approached them. It was just about to come out of my mouth that I wanted to do a one-off concert there, but they were just too happy to hear from me. So I kept my mouth shut, and I found out that Tui Thompson had just dropped them. And I went, interesting that. I've been talking about setting up a holiday company and a travel company, which was absolute bullshit. And they went, the hotel's in your hands. And I rang up my mate, Mike Bay, and I said, Mike, I think I've just got the biggest youth hotel in San Antonio, 368 rooms.
Wow.
We've got to fill it. Can you help me? And so we just launched the travel brand. And Zane Lowe went round with me. He said, don't do this, Andy. He says, you're a niche brand. Do not open this hotel. Do not do this. I said, I'm doing it, Zane. We're doing it. But then the wave just blew. And we were having, Florence and the Machine one week, Dizzy Rascal another, Calvin Harris. And we were just sold out every week, 4,000 people. It was insane. So we just rode that wave. And then,
Did you, in terms of curation, I'm just intrigued to know, were you involved in that? Because, I mean, there was some really, amazing bands.
I was in the early days, I was the booker. I was an avid NME reader. I was mates with Conor McNicholas, who, when he left, I think it was Music on the Dance World, he became the editor of NME, which is obviously controversial, but I knew Conor, and I was going, look, let's, and we got I got Barfly involved to co-promote with us, and we managed to persuade the live industry to give Ibiza a chance, and we just stole the media agenda, because dance music wasn't very interesting then, So it was an amazing journey, and I can't pretend that I wouldn't love to do it again.
And the artists, I mean, people like the Specials, Ian Brown, when they were coming, was it a step for them? That, I mean, some of them will have known the island, but how did they feel? What was their reaction to coming to perform?
Well, the early days, I mean, Ian Brown and stuff was a bit later, but those early Bar M shows, those early shows it was amazing because we were literally paying them next to nothing.
How did that happen?
I mean, Kaiser Chiefs got 5,000
How did you
euros,
do it?
paid their own flights.
But how did you do
They
that
all
deal?
sang Pikes afterwards as well, so it's called.
Eventually we then moved to Pikes, and that's how Pikes. We took Pikes as the villa to look after the bands. So
that's
Ibiza Rocks was designed to be the best hotel in the world if you're, if you're 19, 20, 21, 22, which is quite easy because you never stayed in a hotel, so it was like, but Pikes was aimed to be the best hotel in the world if you were in a rock band. And that's really kind of the idea of it, and we just built it as a cross between a villa, and it just evolved. I remember doing a party in Pikes, and we were in the Marrakesh suite, which was the main suite, which is now Freddy's, and we just turned the wardrobe over and we put some decks on it, and it was the after party to a Tiny Temper show actually, and we were sat there and I was looking at it, I was going, there's Tiny Temper, Tayo Cruz, Kylie Minogue, James Corden, all these people are in this little room.
Wow.
And I'm going, this has actually got quite an energy. And everyone was dancing on the bed. We broke about 4 beds that year. And it was just a room, and it was just old school. And it was like, well, everyone was smoking inside. I was like, well, of course you can smoke. It's a hotel room. And obviously things have evolved over the years. But it was just magical, and that's That's what you try and keep.
Yeah, it was at Rockstar level. Sort of, you did some of the guests there, like global superstars that are just rocking up and staying at the hotel and partying at the hotel. It's like you kind of don't get that. In many other places, really.
With the evolution of it, then, how did you come to a decision to say, okay, this big one weekly concert isn't what we want to do anymore? What was behind that? What was you thinking behind that kind of change?
Fear of being closed down. So actually, what happened was Jordan, who was the music guy at the time, real talented guy. He said, Andy, I really think a Craig David show would be amazing. And I was just laughing at him, Craig David, whatever. And we, in the end, said, you know what? Let's try an afternoon show, a bit of a pool party with Craig David. Let's see how it goes. And we tried it, and it roadblocked. And we had this amazing year, and Craig and his management know it. We got him for a steal that year, and it was, obviously we pay him a fair fee now, but back then it was a steal because it was a huge risk. And they said fair play to you. You took the risk. You got the. So we had this amazing year with Craig, and we realised that pool parties was far more financially lucrative, but the plan was to keep. I thought, great. We don't make money out of these live shows because we never really made any money out of the live shows. I mean, they're so expensive to bring bands out. So great. Now we can still do all these artists and these bands, and we'll just pay for it with the pool parties. I was like, fantastic. But what happened was jealousy. Because obviously we had those years of being a hugely successful rock and roll promoter, but then it levelled into, we weren't really hurting anyone, basically. Everyone's a bit happy if you're going to put 1,500, 2,000 people and put a Biffy Clyro on or something like that. It's just good. So there was we just said we were in a rhythm, and it could have carried on forever, I think. But when you're putting thousands of people in for Craig David and pool parties, that was two problems. One was it was totally legal, and the other was it was upsetting people, competitively. But the problem was, our live shows, because of the acoustic laws, you have to have all your speakers registered, and the band's equipment cannot be legalised in time for a concert because they're bringing it in, and they're the monitors and so on. So the law, and weirdly enough, it still doesn't allow us to do it. I mean, you can get an extraordinary event licence. So we just had to kill the live shows in order not to be killed, but obviously financially it worked for us, but I've got this real itch to bring bands.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. Do you think you will do that in the future, or one-off shows, or maybe
in my lifetime,
residency
yes.
or something like that?
I just don't know when the moment is. I mean, and obviously we will do things when we did George Smith last year. We'll do things when we can, absolutely. But it's got to make sense, and it's got to be the right moment, and it might be 5 to 8. We do some amazing things in Ibiza, in Pikes, where no one knows, and it's for 200 people.
I was just about to say, I mean, I was going to ask what the future held in terms of that, but sounds like you kind of answered it. I mean, what really for me resonates is that, as you said about having smaller parties or events, you have almost the ability to do a bit of everything. You can do the bigger stuff, you can do the live stuff, you can have Pikes. And I don't know, do you ever look back and think, I can't believe where I am now, where it started? Do you ever contemplate that?
Well, a long time ago I realised that we'd never be the biggest massive, Manumission used to be the biggest thing on the island. That's not our role in this now, and never will be again. And weirdly, during COVID I laughed with Norman, with Fat Boy, because we did a show during COVID, and we had Eat, Sleep, Sit in Your Seat or something. What was it? Eat, Sleep?
Sleep, Rave, Repeat.
No, Eat, Sleep, Sit in Your Seat.
Yeah, sit in your seat.
And we did a
for COVID, sorry, yeah.
We did a socially distanced event for about 500 people in Ibiza Rocks during COVID, and it was the biggest show on the island that year. So I went, bloody hell, I never thought we'd get that again. But I genuinely don't think we'll ever do. I mean, then I guess 5 to 8, who knows? But, it's not my... feel like we tick that box. I'm not, if it happens, it happens. But I am genuinely more excited about doing the smaller, exciting stuff. I see there are, 528, I don't want to be the promoter. I want to be the venue. I feel like, you know, in a sense, maybe brunch is the Manumission. You know, I want other people to be the promoters. I mean, that said, we are the promoter of Pikes Presents. We are doing some promotion there, but we want it to be a place that other people can be creative, because I'm older, you know. It's like, and I really think in that sort of environment, you've got Ibiza Rocks protecting youth, you've got Pikes keep it magical, its own little space. But 528, you know, it really has a lot of scope in a lot of different directions, and you know, I'm working harder on making it great for 400 people than I am to making it great for 2,000.
I mean, it just sounds really interesting, that the concept's there, and yeah, I mean, you've given so much to the island. Thanks for being here to talk to us. And
yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah.
I've learned so much. I guess my last final question is like, what's the most thing that you're looking forward to this summer? Really?
What's the thing I'm looking forward to this summer? The fucking end of it, I think. No, I don't know. It's a busy time at the moment. You know, it's really busy. But no, I'm just excited that every area of the business, in its own way, is hugely exciting, because you know, obviously, you know, Pikes, it's like, you know, I'm realizing we need to keep the rock stars there. We've evolved the rooms. Rock stars respond to curtains, not ropes. We need to hide rock stars. We know, we're evolving. You know, it's how do we create an environment where, you know, Liam Gallagher can be comfortable, or where you know, so I was really upset last year. Sacha Baron Cohen turned up last year to Pikes and was there for 3 minutes. How do we protect them? How do we protect them without being this look at me thing? Because I don't think look at me helps the island. I mean, I think it helps the island's pockets, but I think so it's evolving that. And you look at Ibiza Rocks, and I think, you know, Ibiza Rocks has a new energy about it, because we're just championing keeping and bringing more youth to the island. And yeah, I mean, look, and 528 could be the biggest thing we've ever done. I really think it could be, and or it could be the biggest thing that I've ever handed to someone else on a plate. So it's like, you know, am I the second or third owner of that golf course? We'll see.
Oh, amazing, Andy. Yeah, it's been brilliant to have you on.
Thank you, mate.
Thanks for coming on, and good luck for the summer.
Yeah, thank you.